before I begin, I first have to thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of our masters and also the predecessors that I have this opportunity to present the class that was done by Lecturer Tai back in 2002. And it the whole idea is the fact that the class topic was supposed to be just the truth of the Tao, the principle, and the heaven's mandate. But he talked a little bit more about other stuff. But the whole idea is the fact that you can eventually review his lecture Tai's video to be able to know everything that's a lot more more thoroughly, so to speak. And because after all, the presentation that I'm giving is sort of like a brief rundown of what he discussed. And so therefore, in order to really, I guess you could say, know about this testimony of the truth of the Tao and the principles and the heaven's mandate, essentially you basically should at least go over the whole video. The video itself, the original lecture Tai's class was, I think, over 3 hours, three classes, so to speak. And so therefore, hopefully you probably get a little bit more understanding about the truth of the Tao, the principles, and the heaven's mandates. Because after all, he also talks about the two other testimonies about it, and so therefore you have a little better idea of what the Tao is based on their own testimonies. Okay, so to begin with, I need to go down to the next slide. It's not going down. What's going on? Okay. Oops, sorry. Okay. Okay. All right. So basically, he talks about the fact that there's sort of like a phrase, basically, that in Chinese, and it's written on the top, and then of course it's translated: when the heart or mind is true, then everything is true. When the heart and mind or mind is false, then everything is false. Okay, basically, it just talks about the fact that even when we had sand writing based on uh, uh, God, it's God. He also speaks about that when there's fact that in times of in terms of what is true, basically there are also things that there are false. Okay, so what he's talking about is the fact that for example, we talk about believing, okay, and basically that's what Lecture Tai talked about. That when you believe in something, basically it's equivalent to like saying, okay, whether you see it or not, etc. Basically, you find out, oh, it's true. But then, of course, it depends on what you believe in. Okay, for example, Lecture Tai uses the example of like, okay, for example, certain group of people thinks that the world, or believes that the world, that the world is what? Flat. Okay, instead of round, or or spheres. Okay, and so therefore, of course, science has proven the fact that it is a sphere as opposed to a flat world. So therefore, you can say the fact that, okay, the belief is sort of like uh, uh, not really true. Okay, so that's the reason why there's actually scientific proof the fact that yes, the world is a sphere. Okay, so anyway, then he talks about the fact that, okay, that's the part that what God was talking about, saying that within the truth there is falsehood, and within the false there's truth. Okay, to know clearly what is true and what is false, one can definitely transcend the world. Okay, so basically, Lecture Tai is talking about the fact that when, in terms of true or false, okay, it depends on what you really how you believe in it, and because after all, when the people believe that the world is flat, they believe it, that that that's true. But yet, I mean, how do you then convince the fact that, hey, it's false? But it depends on how much they believe in it, or how much conviction that they have in that belief. Okay, so in this sense, that within this truth there's falsehood, and within the false there's truth. It just means the fact that, yeah, there are things that we find are true, but yet when you come to get to know the fact that, hey, there are other, I guess you could say, uh, truths or falsehoods in them. So therefore, you begin to change your mind or change your belief. Okay, so the important thing is the fact that to know clearly what is true and what is false, okay, can definitely transcend the world. Means the fact that it can basically allow you to understand what is really true and what is false. And basically, that's the way that you can, I guess you could say, uh, not get out of, but rather to yeah, it's a better word is to transcend the the material world, so to speak. Okay. All right. Okay, then let me go to the next slide. Oh, there, I got it. Okay, good. Okay, now it basically talks about the fact that there's something called the Gnostic Bible. Okay, that's the Bible that's not in the normal Bible. Basically, those are the books that were found um, uh, in a desert in Egypt that basically was dug up, and so therefore there are other, I guess you could say, books from other disciples. Okay, because after all, Martin, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, of course. Then, of course, there's the Apostles, which is the book about the from Paul about all the Acts of the Apostles. And then, of course, there's the last book is the Revelations, which is I'm all talking about the New Testament, of course. Basically, it's in when John was the one who wrote the book of Revelation. Okay, so this gospel is from the book of Thomas. Okay, because after all, he's not one of those. He was one of those disciples of Jesus, but yet it's not found in the the normal Bible. Okay, all right. So basically, he's talking about saying the fact that if your leaders say to you, "Look, the kingdom of heaven." Kingdom is in heavens, then of course the birds will already be there, because after all, they can fly there very quickly. Okay, if you say that the kingdom is in the sea, then of course the fish is already there. So therefore, you have to go to the sea in order to, swim to get in there. Okay, but fact that the book of Thomas says the fact that rather the kingdom is within you and it is outside of you. Now, what does that mean? Okay, basically he's talking about the fact that the kingdom is, of course, equivalent. I can say it's equivalent to your brutal nature that you have. Okay, and so therefore, and then of course he talks about the fact that it is also outside of you. So basically, he's talking about the kingdom, which is the Buddha nature or the Tao. Then what is outside of you is the same Tao. Okay, so that's the reason why it's equivalent to sort of like what I think it was in the 4 books of Confucius. It talks about mentions answering a question from a duke, and basically saying the fact that, oh, the Tao is everywhere, and so it's equivalent to like equivalent to like, oh, it's also in the urine, so to speak. Okay, that I think that was the quote that I got, and so therefore he's basically saying the fact that yes, the Tao is within you, and also it is what? Everywhere around you. Okay, all right. And then, of course, in the same Gospel of Thomas, he talks about the fact that Jesus said, "A split wood, I'm there. Lift up a rock, you'll find me there." Basically, just the same thing. It's an iteration of what the first verse was saying. The fact that, yes, it is everywhere and it's also within yourself. Okay. All right. Okay. And then, of course, he introduces confusion, so to speak. He talks about the fact that a Junzi, which is I guess equivalent to a sage or noble person, okay, is in awe of three things. Okay, what in awe basically means very respectful, admires, etc. And those are the three things that that noble person or virtuous person will be or are talking about. First is what's called the heaven's mandate. Okay, basically that's the authority, will, decree, and affinity. Okay, I'll explain that later. Okay, and then of course the second thing that he is all about is a respectful person, which is a virtuous person. Okay, and then the third is what? The words of a saint or sage. Okay, a saint or sage, excuse me. Words of a saint or sage. Basically, those are the words equivalent to like saying, for example, you read whether it's the Bible or the other religious books, etc. Basically, those are the recordings or records, if you will, of the words that people had or the person has said. And also the same thing when you talk about like uh, like the Buddha itself, same thing. Okay, and then of course, in terms of the noble person or virtuous person, basically it just means a respectful person, a person that is dignified and also has the virtue to I guess you could say affect others. Okay, and then, of course, the last one is basically the heaven's mandate. Okay, that's the will, decree, and affinity. Now, this the mandate by itself is basically talking about a authority, okay, or will or decree. And then the affinity is basically means the fact that it's relative to the heaven's mandate only because of the fact that um, you've all basically attended a Dharma class, and basically you heard about the fact that also had the Tao blessing, and basically you're told about the three treasures, and basically one of the and the third treasure you're told about something called the green, red, and white periods. Okay, and so therefore that is based on so like I'll call it affinity, because in the fact that during the time of the green and the red, of course, those are only passed on within a certain individual, so to speak. And then only in the white period is the mandate or the Tao ceremony given to what? Everyone. Okay, so basically that's a little bit related to affinity. Okay, and basically I'll get to that later on, but that's the whole idea of the Tao's mandate, heaven's mandate, and then of course the noble person and the words of a sage, because after all, it is something that we all should respect and also, I guess you could say, aspire to when people talk about the sage or the sages, okay, or virtuous person. Okay. Okay. All right. And then, of course, the testimony is a confirmation of the validity of the enlightened masters and their mission, truth of the Tao, truth of the principle, truth of the heaven's mandate. Okay. And the Tao is the essence of everything, including life. Okay. And basically, that's talking about the fact that we talked about in the Book of Thomas, or the Book of Thomas. Basically, the Tao is everywhere, so to speak. And it's also within us. Right? That's the Buddha nature that we have. Okay. And then, of course, the principal laws that govern everything. Well, I mean, in science, basically, we talk about what's called the four laws. Okay. That, or the four laws of physics, so to speak. Okay. And one, of course, is gravity. The other one is magnetism. And then the third is the strong force, and then the fourth is the weak force. Okay, and basically these are the things that govern. So like I guess you could say everything, because after all, uh, the the planets rotate in a certain way. Okay, so therefore that's based on Newtonian mechanics or Newtonian laws. Okay, and so therefore based on the gravitational attraction or whatever between all the planets, and so the fact that we live in a certain planet, which is the third planet from the sun, which is of course the planet that has an environment that is conducive to life. Okay, so because after all, in Venus and Mars, okay, we don't have that, that, well, yeah, Mars is a little bit, it's on the outskirts of the what's called the Goldilocks zone. But anyway, the point is the fact that, yeah, you know, in on this planet, we have the environment that which we can, or is conducive to life itself. Okay. And then, of course, the heaven's mandate. Well, that basically is the authority in which that was given to the enlightened masters or the patriarchs, so to speak, to be able to carry out the will or the decree that was of heaven. Because after all, in the green and red and also the white, basically there are certain patriarchs that were that basically was able to pass on the, I guess you could say, the mandate to another person. Okay, and basically, it was in the green and the white base. I mean, in the green and red, it was, so like individual to individual. Okay, basically individual to individual. Okay, and then the white, of course, is now what, have a lot of transmitters that they can conduct the blessing ceremony. Okay, because after all, it is uh, because after all these between these periods, there are also like transitional periods that's sort of like a overlap between the red and the and the white, and also the green and the red. Okay, okay, and then okay, oops, I need to go down a little bit further. Okay. Now he then talks about the Tao is true, the principles are true, and the mandate is true. So the first is talking about the Tao is true. Okay, so the Tao is true, allowing basically allowing the individual or the spirit that's within us, okay, or the Buddha nature that's within us, to be able to return to the origin, okay, the essence. Because after all, sometimes we use the Tao as the essence, okay, and it's equivalent to the essence. And later on, you'll basically find out fact that there's also, when you know when you have the Tao, basically there's also another aspect, which is I guess you could say the not the opposite, but the equivalent of what's called the function. Okay, and I'll get to that later. Okay, so basically the Tao is true. Okay, because after all, enlightened masters, example, the holy teacher, basically transmitted the instant realization of the Dharma of the three treasures. Okay, because after all, the realization of the three treasures is what called the heavenly portal, which is what points out the intrinsic unrestrained bodhisattva. Okay, so basically that's sort of like the Buddha nature within us. Okay, and then the divine mantra points to the way to the bright inner world. The divine mantra is sort of like, we say in the three treasures, we talk about, we call it something called the password, so to speak. Okay, and so therefore it allows us to enter the gates of heaven, so to speak. Okay, and so therefore again it talks about the fact that points the way to the bright inner world is basically the what we call the absolute heaven. Okay, and when we talk about the three treasures. Okay, and then of course the holy hand seal, because basically that's the way we hold our hand when we do the bows. Okay, and it talks about the inner virtue or the inner pure child, the true self. Basically, that's the way we hold our hands within, and the way we point our fingers in the hand. Okay, and so basically, the heavenly portal points us to something that's what, formless. Okay, the my mantra is basically something we say, right? And so like a voice. So it's basically equivalent to like the wind. that comes and goes. Okay. And then of course the last one is what? The Holy Seal. It's the what we call the hand seal, same thing. Okay. And basically it's what? A physical representation. Okay. So therefore you have what is called formless, then what is between form and formless, which is what? Equivalent like the wind, so to speak, and then or a voice, so to speak. And then of course you have the physical. So basically it's equivalent to what we call in Chinese called the Li Qi Xiang. Okay, Xiang means Li means the equivalent to like the principle. The Qi basically means like the equivalent to like the wind. Okay, because after all, for those people who know a little bit about Chinese, you hear about the qi in like whether it's the qi in in kung fu or whatever, same thing. Okay, so that's the qi, and then of course the xiang means of course the form itself. So basically, it talks about the formless becoming to the form. Okay, so that's the three aspects. All right. Okay. And of course, the Tao is true. Okay, self-created state of supreme unsurpassed nirvana. Okay, so basically, you know, when the Buddha's around in the world at that time, okay, after he became enlightened, basically he was basically in a state of constant nirvana, so to speak. Okay, so basically you're talking about nirvana is sort of like maybe a state of mind. Okay, so therefore, because after all, after he became enlightened, basically he taught a lot about the sutras that we read. Okay, well, the Buddhist sutras, and then also the many disciples, sort of like basically revered him, so to speak. Okay, and then he talks about the fact that the Buddha also mentions something of what's called the what, the Four Noble Truths. Okay, that's very that's basically the first teachings that he had to the first disciples that he had, and basically he talked about the suffering, etc. Okay, and basically one is the last of the Four Noble Truths is what, the way in which you can get out of this state of suffering. Okay, because after all, to be able to what, transcend the suffering, so to speak. Okay, and basically talks about what's called what, the six paramitas. Okay, so the first paramita is of course the giving. Okay, and of course it says yeah, it can overcome greed, but the idea of the charity is basically it's a from charity to wisdom on the sixth level is basically a equivalent to like a step-by-step way in which you can overcome or benefit from all the stuff that you had done before, which is the charity. And then, of course, it will be the second is the precepts, which is the discipline, and then the forbearance, which is the patience, and then the diligence, which is the vigorous effort. Okay, and then of course the concentration, which is samadhi, and the last one is of course is wisdom or prajna. Okay, so basically this is I'll call it an equivalent to a step-by-step process in which you can basically get to that wisdom. Okay, now the wisdom that he's talking about is what? The Buddha nature wisdom. Okay, not the human wisdom. Okay, or streetwise wisdom or whatever. So basically, he's talking about the Buddha nature wisdom. Okay, so through these steps, charity, precepts, forbearance, diligence, and concentration and wisdom, you can arrive at that stage of prajna or wisdom that is equivalent to what Buddha had was a state of mind when he was still alive, which is the state of what? Nirvana. Okay. Okay. And then, of course, we talk now about what's called the principle itself. Okay. Okay, good. Okay. Okay, so the principle is true. Okay. In accordance with heaven's will and meets the needs of the people to what? Integrate the underlying essence of the five world religions. Okay, he said morally, but it really should be morality. Okay, and then of course, make the real Mahayana Bodhisattva vow in cultivation and practice. Mahayana basically talks about the what's called a large boat and a small boat. Okay, Mahayana is the great boat or the bigger boat. I'll call it just a bigger boat. Okay, and that's the type of uh, um, Buddhism that's the type of Buddhism we study. That's called the Mahayana Buddhism. Okay, and he's talking about a Bodhisattva vow. Basically, the Bodhisattva. Okay, Bodhisattva is a person that vows to make to go back into the more the worldly into the world, so to speak. Okay, and to be able to help guide others to be able to find the the or lead them to find the enlightenment that you can have through the cultivate their own cultivation. Okay, so basically that's what's called a bodhisattva. Okay, the person who really wants to make a vow. I read a story about like 30 years ago about a story about it was called the religions of the world, and basically it talks about the fact that there was two friends who were want to find a place called paradise, and so therefore they swam the deepest ocean, traveled the driest deserts and try far and wide. Eventually, they came upon this what's called paradise. And basically, one of the friends says, "Oh, okay, I found it. I finally found it." So therefore, he walked into it, and so like the gates of gates of paradise. Okay, and then of course, then when he looked back, he goes. He asked his friend who was still standing outside. He goes, "Wait, why aren't you coming in?" And then the second person basically his friend basically says, "Well, I'm happy that I found it, and it's a great relief, because after all the effort that we've been through and all that stuff. So therefore, I would definitely would like to join you, but yet I need to go back to the village, so to speak. Okay, and basically, and I so he goes, why? And he goes, well, his friend asked why, and then he goes, well, since I now know the way that to find this paradise, so I want to tell others so that they can also go to the paradise. Basically, that's the same thing as the what we call as a bodhisattva. Okay, all right. Okay, and then of course he talked about three other aspects, which is the establishment of a pure land on earth, which is conceptual. Okay, and then of course the advocating the complete self-reliance, which it calls it economical, and of course the achieve a world of great harmony, which is the purpose. Okay, so it's establishing a pure land is really what's Maitreya has did vow. Okay, and you see it on the next slide, and basically it's a pure land is really pure in what? Okay, well, pure in sincerity, pure in aspiration, and pure in terms of um, the the cultivation that we want to achieve. Okay, and the advocation of self-reliance. Okay, well, that's basically it's like saying the fact that when you want to teach, I mean, you want to feed someone, so to speak, you have the person learn how to fish, and basically, then this way, once they know how to fish, then they can, feed themselves, so to speak. Okay, so that's sort of equivalent to like economically, and of course, to achieve the world of great harmony, it basically means that's the purpose. So that's the vow that Maitreya or the Mahayana Buddhism basically wants to have is basically to have a world in which that everyone has their own role to play in society, and also get along together with everyone. So basically equivalent to the same thing as what we call what's called the creed of the Tao. Basically is what to achieve a world of great harmony. Okay. Okay, and I need to go down a little bit more. Okay, heaven mandate is true. Okay, basically, heaven's mandate is true is to spread far and wide and endure over time. So the idea is the fact that this mandate has been around for, wow, the green and the red and the white periods. Okay, and even maybe before. Okay, and so therefore, we know about learn about what's called the lineage of the Tao. That's in the Dharma class, and it was a presentation was presented by one of the lecturers to talk about the how did the sort of like the mandates came by, so to speak, to now to today. Okay, and so basically, it's as he has stated that lecture Tai has said, it's suitable for the needs of society according to the situation. Okay, and in accordance with modern society, basically a lotus flower basically lives in water, but well, he basically says that it's planted in fire. Well, basically, it just means the fact that to cultivate, refine ourselves in the world, but not to be contaminated by it. In terms of in Buddhism, they basically talk about a lot about a lotus flower, because when you plant the flower in the it's sort of like muddy water, very murky water or muddy water, basically. And then, the fact is that the roots stay in the mud, so to speak, and then the stem goes up and it floats on begin at the top of the water. Okay, the leaf and the flower itself, and basically the leaf, I mean the flower basically blossoms, and basically it rises up above the level of the water. Okay, and basically that just means the fact that as he had stated, refine oneself in the world, but not to be contaminated by it. It basically means the fact that the idea of the concept of the Buddha's lotus flower is fact in Buddhism is the fact that you can still live in this worldly society, so to speak, and then you can rise above, which is what the stem that floats on the water, to be able to become a very beautiful flower, at the end. Okay, and so it just means the fact that you can rise above these things. Okay, and so that's to say that it will be not be contaminated by this form or the world itself. Okay. And then, of course, no need to give up on one's career. Tao cultivation is also stable, partially caring for secular sentiment, and partly cultivating immortality. Okay, so there's a phrase in the creed of the Tao. Basically, talks about that you borrow the temporary, so to speak, or the form, borrow the form to I believe it's in the creed, to basically study or learn or know about eventually the more immortality, which is the transcendence, to be able to transcend from this world. Okay, all right. Okay, and then of course, continuing on the heaven's mandate is true. It's the fact that it goes, it established a pure land and universal salvation for the practice of Confucian ethics. Okay, because after all, Confucian ethics is, according to, I think that, yeah, the Tao has been saying this for a long time, during around the time of the White period. I don't know when in the White period, but it's I think it was also I think what the holy teacher had mentioned that also, the fact that all these religions, that the religions of this world now, okay, which is of course I'm talking about the newer religion, not like the old Judaism or the Hinduism. Okay, that's like the old world religion, so to speak. Okay, but because after all, they has still been around until this day. But the fact that they established themselves long ago. But in terms of the New World religion, I'll call it the New World religions. Basically, it's the 5 major religions: Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Confucianism, and I think, wait, did I say Islam? Okay, those are 5 religions. Okay, and basically it's saying the fact that all these religions will go back to what? Will be, I don't want to say go back, but rather will be, I guess, absorbed by what's called the Confucian ethics. Okay, and basically that's to cultivate oneself, to regulate, to regulate one's family, to govern the nation, to bring about world harmony, purifying the world. Purifying the world means basically to be more uh, 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 purify means the fact that you want to purify the knowledge that people have about the world in terms of like, oh, being sincere, being ethical, being equivalent to say not cricket as all that stuff. Okay, and then of course working together with a shared purpose. Okay, all right. Then of course the Maitreya. Okay, then he talks about the Maitreya Pure Land of Universal Salvation. Okay, that's basically I mentioned earlier about what Maitreya his vow was to try to establish a pure land of universal salvation. Okay, basically, uh, or he calls it a destiny. Okay, and he's talking about the fact that it is the easiest way to transcend the cycle of life and death. Because after all, Maitreya, or the Grand Patriarch, okay, because he was what, the incarnation of who? Maitreya. Okay, all right. So therefore, he basically started this period, so to speak, that we have what's called the universal salvation of everyone, so to speak. Okay, and so therefore, this way you have you have a great deal of transmitters, and that has the mandate to be able to what, to give you the I guess you could say the blessing. Okay, and so therefore you can have a way to transcend the cycle of life and death, because after all, your first portal, or your first heavenly portal, the first treasure, will allow you to be opened. And so therefore, this way or it's equivalent to say unlocked instead of open. Okay, just unlocked. And so this way you can open the door, and when your time is, is your time is ripe, so to speak, that you can leave this world and through that portal. Okay, and then of course the cultivation practice is simple and easy. Well, okay, that's a little bit debatable, because after all, it depends upon your perspective. Okay, because after all, having the body of an ordinary person, no one does but no one does not have to meditate, get rid of vexations and fear of life and death cycle. Okay, emphasis on benevolence and mercy, and also no need for ascetic practice. Okay, so he basically is talking about the fact that we are a normal human being. Okay, okay, we are, human. Okay, and so therefore you don't have to have to practice any of the things that the red period, so to speak, talks about, or the would basically talk about meditation. Okay, and the get rid of vexation means the fact that how you through cultivation can be able to change your outlook on life itself. And so therefore, you can in fact you will have a better or more positive outlook on life. So this way you can be able to cultivate happily. And so, even though there are things that you find that are very difficult in terms of cultivation, but you will still be able to change your outlook, because after all, the important thing is your own state of mind. Okay, and then of course, in fear of life and death cycle, because after all, you have the ability to what, transcend this cycle of life and death within this lifetime. Okay, the important thing is that within this lifetime, based on the cultivation that you do in this particular life. Okay. All right. And then, of course, the emphasis on mercy, benevolence, and mercy, basically the fact that, based on when you change your outlook on life, this way, um, not only emphasis on benevolence and mercy, but also appreciation, so to speak, for the things that you have in this life. Because after all, some people find out that, hey, life is, you know, there's a saying that life is not fair. Okay, yeah, that's true. But the fact is that those are all circumstances of what we had done in past lives that created this particular life. Or that fact that once we came into this particular life, that it's sort of like the luggage that we have brought from all these past lives that gave us what we have. Okay. All right. Okay. Then, of course, the next one is okay, the heaven's mandate is true. Okay, basically, you're talking about the writing of the white history of the white era, basically the mission that we're talking about. Okay, because after all, the enlightened master is born. Okay, and then it continues the mission of the Tao for thousands of years. Because after all, we have the red and the green and red periods. Okay, and then of course, opening up the authentic line to Nanping. Okay, well, Nanping is basically one of the titles for the holy teacher. Okay, and basically he calls it Jigong Buddha's world. Okay, well, that's the realm that we can go to when we transcend. Okay, and so, but of course, we talk about absolute heaven, but yeah, really, when you listen to Lecture Kai's topic about the different levels of that the Buddhists have, or the Arvats have, etc. So and the Bodhisattvas have. Basically, you begin to realize the fact that, hey, yeah, there are a lot more things that you need to know or to understand to be able to really go to absolute heaven, so to speak. Okay, and then of course, one point transmission to transcend life and death cycles. Excuse me. Okay. Okay. Basically, if one does not seek salvation from Tenran, which is the holy teacher, okay, it will be difficult to obtain a human life for thousands of years. Okay. In terms of the past lives that we have, okay, if we do not seek the salvation or the opening of your portal, basically it means the fact that if you do not, or you don't transcend, so to speak, then you of course have to reincarnate in order to have an ability to be able to come in the human world, to be able to eventually get the opening of the portal, so to speak. Okay, so the idea is the fact that if one does not speak this salvation at this particular time, which is the white era time, excuse me. Okay, then of course, we once we come back into this world in a human life, okay, if we happen to be in a human life, okay, because after all, there's six paths of reincarnation that we talk about. So therefore, you should if you happen to become a human, then this way, I don't know how many lives or how many years will go by before you become a human. Then therefore, that's the reason why he talks about obtaining a human life for thousands of lives, because it means the fact that in this particular time you have this ability to transcend. Now if you don't seek that transcendence, okay, then of course the ability for you to be able to come back again in a different person, of course, and of course still be a human. Okay, yeah, it could be a long time. Okay. Okay, all right. And then let's see. Okay, so need to move down a little bit. Okay. And then of course it talks about the fact that the oops, darn it. I need to move it up a little bit. Okay, the heavens mandate is again it's also true. It's the fact that the universal salvation is now of the three realms. Okay, universal salvation does not exist since ancient times. The not astonishing affinity to encounter this spring period, so to speak, okay, is something that's very special. Because after all, I mentioned about the affinity in the previous slides, and basically that's talking about the fact that in order to be able to become a human in this time, in this white era time frame, okay, you must have a lot of affinity in the past to be able to eventually become a human in this particular time. Okay, and so therefore, I don't know how, because in the Tao we also say the fact that you must have what have gone through uh, 3 lifetimes to be able to what receive the Tao, 5 lifetimes to be, I think, or 5 lifetimes to become enter. I mean, to be able to have the cultivation to be able to enter or be a vegetarian or also become a vegetarian. No, sorry, attend a Dharma class. Okay, so basically, so there's a lot of things that uh, that that in terms of affinity that we have, so that we will be able to be to not only receive the Tao, but also to become vegetarian or to attend a Dharma class. Okay. Then all immortals aid in the Tao propagation. Maitreya instructed all deities to help Tao propagation. And of course, he talks about flying phoenix transform into saints and Buddhists. Okay, well, the idea of a flying phoenix, of course, what does phoenix stand for? That a firebird sort of that comes what out of the ashes, right? That basically that's the phoenix. Okay, so it just talks about the fact that Maitreya, because after all, he is the what's called I guess you could say the big boss, or as Lecture Tai mentioned, well, it's the big boss, so to speak. He's sort of like I guess you could say big boss of the universe, so to speak. All right. And so therefore, holy teacher is the, I guess you could say, the talks about the realm of the or the affairs of the Tao. Okay, that's a little bit different. So so the Maitreya basically is the, I guess you could say, the universal big boss, and so therefore he instructed all deities to help out the propagation, and that's what that's when he's talking about the flying phoenix transformed into saints and Buddhists. Basically, they all the Buddhists and saints has come down into this world to help out the Maitreya Buddha to be able to create the Pure Land or the universal salvation of the three realms. Okay, and then of course, widely spread the customs of the Tao. Okay, universal salvation is to carry out heaven's will. Okay, enlist talents through examination to spread the Tao custom. Okay, basically, it just means the fact that uh, you know the idea that we have this universal salvation is really to carry out heaven's will or the mandate. The mandate, the fact that the mandate must pass on from the previous predecessors and patriarchs to be able to have everyone to be able to what uh, get the blessing of the Tao. Okay, and then of course the enlisted talents from examining through examination to spread the Tao customs. Okay, yeah. Normally we talk about the talents. They talk about the 3 talents that we have. In the past Dharma classes, we had the 3 talents that come into the Dharma class to be able to I guess you could say have the saints and Buddhas to help the spread the teachings of this Tao. Okay, and so currently we don't have this at this time because after all, I guess you could say it's based on the times and the affinity that we have. Okay, so it's possible that the affinity has been gone since the time that we had this previous Dharma classes, and so therefore we no longer have this ability to be able to have the talents to come in. Okay, then of course after that he talks about the various testimonies that what's called he talks about particularly two about the pastor and also a Filipino woman called Elmilda. Elmilda, yeah, that's okay. That's her name. Okay, Liu, and it basically talks about the propagation of the Tao, etc. So I want to skip that because after all, I'll eventually put the complete file or the recording in this first year class so that you can review the whole 3 hours, so to speak, of the 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 testimony of the Tao is true, the principle is true, and the mandate is true. Okay, before I conclude, basically, this the more thing that we want to understand is the fact that the things that we should do, okay, to recognize and understand the truth and the practice is sincerely, okay, because after all, when you receive the Tao, one of the first vows that you made is what? To sincerely uphold the truth that was given, or the blessing or the truth that you were given. Okay, and basically, so therefore, the idea of the fact that the true and the false depends on what? The heart and the mind. Okay, and everything is relative because after all, relative truth and there are relative truths and also relative falsehoods. Well, yeah, falsehoods. Okay, and then of course, so important things, the sincerity that you want to have. Okay, okay, and I'm sorry. Okay, and then of course, practice sincerely with all our strength and effort, because after all, we only have this particular life to be able to what? Transcend, and based on the efforts that you commit or the force that you do this effort, okay, then of course you will be able to what? Gather the merits that you need to be able to what? Have enough to eventually transcend into this, well, transcend this world, so to speak. Okay, all right, and of course, in terms of the what's called to do our best in the Tao of humanity. Okay, because after all, there's a saying, in fact, that in order to cultivate the Tao of, I mean, the the uh, the Tao, yeah, the Tao, well, I guess the truth of Tao, you need to what? Practice the Tao of humanity. Basically, it talks about the fact that, there's what's called the 8 virtues, which is filial piety, brotherhood, loyalty, trust, propriety, righteousness, integrity, and sense of shame. That's one of them. Okay, and because there's a lot more. Okay, you will learn about this in the 3rd year class. And excuse me. Okay, then basically, there's also talks about the three virtues, excuse me, 3 supreme virtues, and also the 3 cardinal guides, the 5 constant virtues, the 5 cardinal relationships. Okay, and of course, these the things that I read basically is what's called the 8 virtues. Okay, then of course, important thing is the fact that, once you change your outlook in terms of the Tao, okay, and get a better understanding of through your cultivation and learning about the Tao, then of course you'll find that being kind, amiable, and harmonious is really the most important thing that we want to be able to have in terms of being what we call a Tao kin and also to everyone else. Okay. Now, the things that, of course, you don't want to do, okay, okay, so the negative aspect, okay, is basically to say the fact that, okay, do not be attached to forms. Okay, so that's really the most important because after all, the form that we have, the human body, the world itself, the material world itself, of course, don't be attached to them because after all, because there's something called what's called the holy teaching I mentioned about the 12 relinquishments. Okay, relinquishments. Okay, anyway, so basically, it's something that we need to be able to learn to find out how we can relinquish all the things that we want or even have. Okay, and so the important thing is that you don't have to. You please don't be attached to these forms because after all, these forms are what transitory, and so therefore everything will eventually go away. All right, everything. All right. So therefore, important thing also be able to distinguish what is right or true or from wrong. Okay. And so that's very important also because after all, even though we don't really know what is truly right and wrong, that's the reason why we learn about the Tao. Okay. And so therefore to cultivate the Tao also to be able to really practice it so that we can eventually become to know more about what is truly true or false. Okay. And of course, to not practice the way of human sentiments. Okay, divination, fortune telling, and meditation. Because after all, these are the things. It's basically the four things that sort of like can get or become an obstacle, so to speak, to our cultivation. Okay, and the whole teacher asks for instructions to say, let go of our burdens and rise to the aspiration. Burn burns of the false material and mundane life. So basically talking about the fact that, yeah, you should, I guess you could say, let go of it, or get rid of it if possible. And whether it's your own character itself in terms of like your behavior or your faults, so to speak, to be able to really basically rid themselves of these things so that you can be able to progress. Okay. And of course, that's the part about rising the aspiration. Okay. And then in conclusion, basically, we say we should be grateful and appreciative. Okay, because heaven's grace and holy teachers and masters' virtues, the mercy, compassion, guidance, and nurturing of the Lao Shannon, which is the grand predecessor, and of course the Shannon, which is the predecessor. Okay, the merciful revelations of all the Buddhas and saints, the guidance and encouragement of all cultivators. Okay, all cultivators. Okay, know, cultivate, and fulfill our destiny. Experience the truth, the principle, and the heaven's mandate. So therefore, the personal experiences that will help you be able to increase your own faith and sincerity in terms of based on what you have learned and experienced about the Tao itself. Okay, so I want to conclude this class. If I said anything wrong, I hope the transmitters and the lecturers will be able to correct my mistakes, and I wish that the Buddhists and saints will forgive any mistakes that I made. Thank you very much.